Invisible Stalker, a novel by David Huber. Invisible Stalker is available in paperback and ebook at Amazon.com. Please visit www.invisiblestalker.com. Forward. The subsequent pages are my story. My story tells of my experiences being targeted, what I have found out about the real technology, my indoctrination to become a civilian weapon to kill President Barack Obama, and my subsequent interaction with the military, the U.S. Secret Service and the White House. Some stories are just too true to tell. This may be one of them. I am telling it anyway. With that in mind, you may consider this a book of fiction that tells a narrative that leads to the U.S. military and the White House. You are being watched and controlled in ways that are inconceivable. There exists a secret system of mass surveillance and mass control that is worldwide, constantly monitored and controlled by an artificial intelligent and aware operating system on a quantum computer. I have always been a technologist. When I was a child, my friends and family called me precocious. Others call me a nerd. One of the problems I have telling my story is my education in the sciences. I wish I were a poet. It would be a lot easier for me to describe what it is like being targeted if I had the writing skills of a poet or master storyteller. My story and the technology contained in this book demands to be told. There is a phenomenon described on the internet and World Wide Web that is just now catching the interest of mainstream media, the phenomenon of the targeted individual. The sheer number of people reporting it has become too big to be dismissed as postings to blogs, websites, and groups by schizophrenics steeped in the internet world of conspiracy theories and anti-government rhetoric. The subjects of these postings are organized stalking, gang stalking, electronic harassment and targeted individuals. If you are not convinced that these technologies exist and are being misused by the end of this book, consider this book a work of fiction. For those of you that read the story, discover the real technology and understand that mind control is part of American history, you may consider this book something else. Those that are targeted by this technological crime are called targeted individuals. Once you are targeted, you are seldom let go. The technology is designed to make targeted individuals appear emotionally unhinged, mentally crazy, paranoid, and eventually kill themselves or others. Most targeted individuals are driven to unemployment, homelessness, drugs and madness. As a result of high-tech organized and gang stalking, every targeted individual has something dying inside them. What is dying is hope. Many people may see this book as nothing more than a work of science fiction. There are those, however, that will read this book and walk away with a sense of foreboding and compassion, foreboding of what can happen to them, their children and loved ones. Compassion for targeted individuals the world over. This investigation is several years in the making. I have organized the book in a disjointed nonlinear narrative. The chapters relate my story along with real testimony from the internet, media and other sources. If you are reading this book in electronic format, please click the pictures and links. They will show you YouTube and internet testimony corroborating my narrative. This book exposes a subject that warrants the investigation of our country's top law enforcement agencies. There are targeted individuals on every continent. It is a tragedy that some of the victims of this crime, in an attempt to cry for help, act out in violence. Others put their own theories about the crime online. Often these people have no scientific background and use propaganda terms and vocabulary, thereby making them seem schizophrenic and delusional. This type of posting is carefully crafted by the perpetrators of this crime. Targeted individuals are sleep deprived and start to question their own sanity. Invisible stalkers want targeted individuals to appear crazy and hide the horrible crimes that organized stalking is committing. The invisible stalkers control targeted individuals to the point of desperate action. I have titled each chapter and moved through timelines within each chapter. There are times in my story when I know nothing of the technology and other parts of the story where I know quite a bit. I use YouTube and Google links on the web to allow my readers to investigate news stories, technology sites and targeted individual and my own testimony. If reading in ebook format, the Google links and searches are breadcrumbs that lead my readers to sites that are important. No one really wants to die. Even people who believe in God and heaven don't want to go through the pain of death to get there. What happens when all identity and hope is lost? What happens when one is forever enslaved by the thoughts of others and by their own bodies? I will tell you. Death becomes the American dream and life becomes the American nightmare. The following is my story. Acknowledgements. I am taking this space to acknowledge all the brave, no not brave, the courageous targeted individuals that fight for their life on a daily basis. They fight against the losing of self and identity, they fight against being transformed into something they are not, the fight to stay alive and breathe another day. And they fight to help the world recognize something very terrible is happening to its citizenry. Chapter 1. What is gang stalking? There are many theories and definitions for organized and gang stalking on the internet. They range from the fantastic to the imaginative to the unbelievable. The fact is that the system of gang stalking uses its victims to post conspiracy theories that make them seem crazy. There are many theories as to why American citizens are gang stalked, but the truth for targeting individuals is known only to the gang stalkers. It is a common belief that the government is behind gang stalking and running illegal operations against its own citizens on its own soil. TI is the common acronym for targeted individual. TIs are victims of an energy weapon that connects the TI's nervous system to a computer. The harassment consists of sensory, behavioral, emotional, physical and mental control. At the center of these attacks is a perceptual deception of the TI's 5 senses. When the 5 senses are manipulated, the targeted individual becomes estranged from reality. This makes the target ideal for isolation and manipulation. Targeted individuals are attacked with a direct energy weapon that wears the target down mentally, physically, and psychologically. The attacks are so overwhelming that the target will often beg and plead with the perpetrators, sending voice-to-skull messages for the torment to end. It gets so bad that the target is willing to do anything to please her gang and invisible stalking masters. The attacks are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The perpetrators are using real psychological warfare against American targets. It appears that law enforcement, justice, and the media have turned a blind eye to organized and gang stalking. The corruption runs in many places and is very deep. The energy weapon is used on our own citizens to change them from good people to mind-controlled criminals. TIs are duped into wanton sexual behavior, participating in criminal acts, and worse. One part of the agenda of organized stalking is to destroy the victim's quality of life to the point that they will be taken out of mainstream society. Targets become indigent and destitute due to the lack of being able to hold a job. This is due to the stress and complications of constantly being assaulted. In the worst cases, targets have been killed by putting them into dangerous situations such as driving a car and other so-called accidents. The cumulative stress can drive targets to murder and commit suicide in an effort to escape this overwhelming situation. Going to the FBI and law enforcement agencies causes the targets to become more tortured. The rub is that the FBI and local law enforcement agencies are reluctant to even take a report. When the attack first begins, the target is profiled. The system asks many questions. How old are you? Are you married? Are you a priest or a man of the cloth? Are you in the military? Do you live on an Indian reservation? I believe these initial questions are to ascertain whether or not the person is feasible for targeting. Priests are left alone because the system does not want the anger of the church. Military personnel are left alone while on active duty for obvious reasons. After they are discharged, many military personnel are targeted and the medical establishment chalks up their behavior to post-traumatic stress disorder. American Indians on Indian reservations are left alone because they are part of a tribal family that can act as a lobby and campaign as an organization against this technology. Once a target is accepted for indoctrination into the system, they are under constant surveillance. This surveillance is done by looking out the target's eyes and listening through the target's ears. The target never has any privacy, nor do those around the target. President Obama, asked a bioethics commission to fully investigate non-informed consent and experimentation on Americans. He also requested a report on the effectiveness of current U.S. rules and international standards for the protection of human subjects in scientific studies supported by the federal government and for assurance that research participants are treated safely, ethically and fairly. At its meeting, the Commission heard reports on the landscape of global medical research from bioethicists and clinical research experts, and on the ethical and social justice implications of this research. Targeted individuals are everyday people. Maybe your grandmother, your nurse or your doctor. Chapter 2, When I First Started to Hear Voices in My Skull. Exactly when I was first exposed to and controlled by this technology I may never know. They say hindsight is 20/20, but I can only speculate as to when I was subtly influenced emotionally, physically, mentally and behaviorally. Looking back, I can see very distinct changes in my personality and behavior as far as 15 years ago. When I first started to notice the synthetic voices in my head is an entirely different matter. What I remember are changes in the way I hear myself think. My thought voice and the way I think have changed. The thought voice, the voice you hear when reading or thinking to yourself, is called your subvocalized voice or subvocalization. Subvocalization, or silent speech, is defined as the internal speech made when reading a word or thinking, thus allowing the reader to imagine the sound of the word as it is read. The way I perceive my thought voice has changed. The way I perceive what others think about me is changed. Before I hear the voices, I am undergoing small and unnoticeable changes. These changes influence every aspect of my life. Most of the changes are harmful. In August of 2008 I had no idea that I am under emotional and mental control until the voices make me aware of their existence and the control they have over me. Prior to my knowledge of their existence they influence me without my notice. Now I am armed with the knowledge of what the voices are, what the technology may be, and who might be invisibly stalking me. I now have the presence of mind to investigate and fight back. In the beginning it was a lot like falling. I was falling down a hill shrouded in fog, not knowing how long I had fallen or how far. One day, almost by accident, I was able to find my footing and stop falling. After some time, I am able to stand on my own. After some more time I am able to see, look up and determine exactly how far I have fallen and what I have to do to re-establish my identity. Make no mistake, this technology is designed to steal one's sense of self and replace it with another. The first time I distinctly remember hearing the voice-to-skull messages, I am working for a large high-tech firm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I remember this day like it was yesterday. Everyone in the office is upset about the failing economy and everyone is in a fucked up mood. My boss, however, is smiling. Darshan, my director, is a very serious Indian man. The fact that he is smiling concerns me. He never smiles without a reason. Darshan enters my office and says, "Your meeting has been cancelled. I have scheduled a new one with you at the same time. It is now on your calendar." I am instantly overwhelmed with a strange emotion. At least it has all the characteristics of an emotion. My stomach feels like it is empty and uneasy, my hands tremble a bit, and there is a lump in the back of my throat. I cannot look anyone in the eye. This strange emotion can only be defined as foreboding or dread. The dread is accompanied by a strange voice. Weak and unintelligible at first, the voice seems to emanate from my skull and ears. The voice definitely sounds like a woman. The female voice not only talks as if someone is talking to me, but it also replaces my subvocalized, not so silent, thought voice. At first the voice is alien to me and my subvocalized thought. Much later I will become accustomed to it and even depend on the female voice to supply me with my thought voice. It is as if my silent thought voice is replaced by a female sounding voice that thinks for me. The voice became very clear and comments about my current situation. "He is going to shit, can you?" The comment is accompanied by another rush of physical sensation. I began to sweat a bit, my testicles tighten, and the lump in my throat is much bigger. I can only describe the sensation as fear. I walk to my coworker Chris's cube, His manager and administrative assistant are both present. I proceed to crack a racially charged joke without thinking about it.
Strange.
I think to myself, in my girly thought voice, as everyone just stares. I never use the word nigger at work. The use of racial epitaphs is grounds for punishment at my politically correct Bay Area office. I have too much diversity training and too much to lose over a racist joke. But this week has been intense. I am partying more than ever and my extreme lifestyle is starting to show. My haircut is too cool for the conservative marketing department. My designer clothes alienate me. I look more like a club goer than a marketing manager. I believe that I have what other men only aspired to have: good looks combined with a superior brain and an A-type personality. Up until this time I didn't think that I am superior to everyone but lucky and blessed. It all starts to change. My girly thought voice tells me that my abilities, charisma, and good looks are a curse because the world is watching and is jealous. I think that the other men in my office secretly and overtly covet my abilities. They are always nice and pleasant to work with and even lunch with me. However, a little voice in my head tells me that there exists underlying hostility. My perception of what is said about me and my perception of my thought voice is changed. On top of this, my physical emotions of fear, uncertainty and doubt are amplified. At this time, I do not know that I am a technological slave and science project to persons unknown. Throughout my career and personal life, I am on a steady quest for excellence. With every job there is a promotion, company stock, and more money. I move through the ranks of well-known technology companies and gain the respect of my coworkers and those I work for. The rewards are great. The money and social contacts I gain lead me to marriage, friends, family and home. All of this, however, changes. It changes as I am forcibly changed. My strange new thought voice tells me that everyone is stupid. My thought voice goes on to tell me that I am the only intelligent person on the planet and to only keep my own counsel. I either refuse to hear or cannot listen to others. This drastic change in my persona does not go unnoticed by my coworkers. My coworkers, at least from my perspective, suddenly began to work as a team to criticize my work and find chinks in my armor. In fact, this is how the term gang stalking came about. The technology causes the targeted individual to emotionally feel and to think others are against them and that they are out to cause them harm. This is exactly how I am feeling and perceiving my peers, friends and family. I get so angry. I am played for a fool. At the time, however, I am made to believe that I am on top of things. Everyone is a hater. This is the furthest thing from the truth. I now know I am surrounded by love and friendship. The technology's goal is to destroy. I am estranged and distanced from everyone. I do not recognize myself. This technological disease is designed to systematically destroy the targeted individual, their relationships, families, happiness and their very identity. Strange thoughts continue to delude me. I believe I am singled out and judged by what I perceive as higher standard than my peers. This must be because management and others can see potential in me and criticize my near-perfect work to bring me to the next level. On the other hand, they are a bunch of jealous haters that want to tear me down. They want to be the star and occupy my position. This change in thinking from an affable man to a paranoid, jealous and bitchy man is noticed by everyone but me. I recall staring at the clock and waiting for my meeting with the director. I am nervous, so I go to the restroom, comb my hair and apply some cover-up to hide an unsightly blemish on my skin. As I exit the bathroom, I take a left toward my meeting with the boss and notice a gorgeous receptionist named Karen. She smiles an inviting smile. I want to smile back, but my usual confidence with women is gone. I feel a sense of shame and I am unable to meet her gaze. I hear my new female thought voice whisper,
"She thinks you're starting to look and act too much like a girl for her taste."
Full of shame, I cover my blemish with my right hand and quickly dodge her. I make my way into the meeting with my boss. As I enter the meeting room, I see my director's smiling face. I quickly glance to the left and notice the human resources representative. I feel what only can be described as intense fear. I hear the woman inside my head say,
"See, I told you they're going to fire you. Oh my God."
My distinctly feminine mental voice cries out. I leave the office feeling very small. My little girl's mental voice does nothing to make me feel better. I am infused with emotions of embarrassment, shame and hopelessness. This, however, changes as I enter my PT Cruiser and make my way up the 101 freeway. Sure, I just got laid off, but I have a fat severance check and plenty of time to find employment. My skills are in demand. I arrive at my Eddy Street apartment and a choice parking spot next to a van. I exit my car and see that the van is filled with black children and their mother trying to unsuccessfully to start the minivan. I ask if I can be of assistance. The lady thanks me and tells me that they are late for the children's play and do not know what to do. It is at this point I think in my silent voice that I am going to do everything possible to get the car going and make sure the kids see their play. The lady gives me her keys and I insert the key and try to turn over the engine. It does not turn and the children become more upset.
"Not a problem."
I think in my girly thought voice. I notice the tank is near empty. I tell the lady I do not have a jerry can for gas, but I will go to the gas station and retrieve a can and see if it is a fuel problem. I drive to the gas station a block away on Divisadero, purchase a can, and fill the can with a gallon of gas. I return to the minivan. I have a hard time figuring out how the new nozzles on the new environmentally friendly jerry cans work. Losing half a gallon to the street, I am able to get some of the gas into her tank. I try to start the car. The car does not start and I am the furthest thing from a mechanic. I rely on things I hear on TV shows. On one show a mechanic said if you have a problem starting your car, it's either fuel or fire. Well, I put the fuel in, so it must be fire. While I am assisting the family, a small female voice keeps saying in my ears and skull,
"You don't know what you are doing. You are going to make things worse."
Determined not to let the voice win, I go back into my cruiser and go to the gas station. I scan the store walls for a jumper cable and purchase the cheapest one. The mother is with me and insists on paying. I tell her that I need a jumper cable and I am not even sure that it will fix the problem. We drive back to the minivan and the now very upset children. I hook the leads up to her battery and then pop my trunk.
"What the heck?"
My girly mental voice shouts. I cannot find my car battery and have no idea how to connect the leads to my car.
"David, you better read your car manual."
My girly mental voices whisper in my ear. I open my glove box, read the manual, and find the place to put the leads to my car. After 30 minutes of charging, her car turns over. I am rewarded by the smiles of the children and the sincere thank you from their mother. Chapter 3. The voices sound synthetic. One of the most difficult things for me is determining the nature of my affliction. I now understand that I am under the influence of an invisible technology. This was not always the case. When the voices first revealed themselves, I can only draw one conclusion: I must be losing my mind. I am using drugs and I start to believe that the voices are a side effect of drug usage. My girly thought voice has become a part of my personality and decision-making process. Looking back, I can say I must have been in a state of denial. I was trying to convince myself that my strange behavioral changes and new thought voice are due to drugs. Things change when my mental voice starts discussing things with me that are outside my knowledge. It is at this point that I believe that the voice in my skull is either some type of hypnosis or I am insane. When I come to this conclusion, my female thought voice says,
"You are not insane, sweetie, we are real."
Great. My crazy is all I can think. Something about my female thought voice strikes me as strange. I do my best to reason out what is happening. I carefully listen to the voices and investigate on the internet. The first things I study are the various maladies of the mind and body. I am either crazy or there is a technological explanation for what I am hearing and feeling. I find my first reference to synthetic telepathy, organized stalking, gang stalking, and electronic harassment. I am in front of my computer in my San Francisco Western Edition district apartment listening to my new female thought voice. The female voice in my head has a separate consciousness behind it. The voice that is my own and yet not my own seems to be able to read my mind and makes constant comments about what I am doing and thinking. My female thought voice will suddenly have a mind of her own. This new consciousness in my mind sees out my eyes and narrates every action I do and every action I am about to do. This is not only irritating, it is scary. I need to find out what is happening and I need to find out fast. I look at my computer and shake the mouse. The screen lights up and I begin clicking, Start, Programs, Internet Explorer, www.google.com.
What is happening to me?
I think in my synthesized but very feminine thought voice.
What should I search for? Again.
My hijacked mental voice says in a girl's voice. When I say hijacked mental voice, I mean it. My normally silent thought voice has a mind of its own and is very feminine. Later I will discover that the voices are instrumental to changing the way someone thinks. My inner voice sounds like a scared little girl and I begin to emotionally feel like a scared little girl. Google's search box stares back at me as I stare at it. I am completely unsure about how to describe my problem or go about my query. I think long and hard with my female mental voice about the voices in my head and consider Googling mental illness. There is something odd about the voices. I have always been a technologist. My technical know-how includes text-to-speech, voice synthesis, and voice recognition computer programs. I even tricked out my computer operating system to accept verbal commands, read alerts, emails, and documents. I invested in a natural-sounding voice system that is very realistic and very feminine sounding. That's when it hit me, the first word to type into the Google search box. The female voice in my head sounds
synthetic.
I look at Windows Internet Explorer and Google's search field. I type the word synthetic and start to think. My female-sounding thought voice asks,
should you put the word voices?
No, I say to her. I start to think out loud. I think out loud so my female thought voice cannot interfere with me and fuck with my mind. I talk out loud. What are the voices like? Where are they coming from? How are voices delivered to a person's head? Then it hits me. Mental telepathy. I yell. Mental telepathy delivers voices from one person's head to another. I examine my search, cross my fingers and hit the Google search button. Google search. I am feeling lucky. Army developing synthetic telepathy, technology and science. October 13, 2008. Vocal cords were overrated anyway. A new Army grant aims to create email or voicemail and send it by thought alone. The results fill my browser. They both scare and intrigue me. I hit on a search that will forever change my life and forever change the way I think and feel about what is happening to me. The voices just said the following to me while typing these paragraphs.
You won't believe what he is writing. He is writing about us.
From the voices in my skull. The perpetrators of this crime. With a lot of research and a bit of luck I am able to put technical terms to what I am experiencing. One of the terms that I am now familiar with is subvocalization. After my initial search I find a document outlining subvocalization and it is as follows. Subvocalization, or silent speech, is defined as the internal speech made when reading a word, thus allowing the reader to imagine the sound of the word as it is read. This is a natural process when reading and helps to reduce cognitive load. It helps the mind to access meanings to enable it to comprehend and remember what is read. Most subvocalization is undetectable, without the aid of machines, even by the person doing the subvocalizing. While you read this book, you are hearing your thought or silent voice in your mind. This is called subvocalization. My thought voice is hijacked by technology. I hear myself think in a girl's voice. I also hear other distinct female and male voices. The voices sound like computer-generated voices. The voices constantly mimic me and my thoughts. Other voices constantly ask me questions and are designed to make clear thinking difficult. I hear two distinct voices.
One female.
And
one male.
When I think with and talk to the female voice it is very soothing. The masculine voice is very powerful and dominating. The male voice is rarely my thought voice. It is a voice that will yell at me, order me about, and ask me questions. The name of my female thought voice is Melissa and male thought voice is Michael. Both voices cause different physical reactions on my body when they talk. Melissa will cause me to sometimes feel scared and insecure. She also shows me how pleasurable feelings can be generated on my body. Michael is another synthetic voice that sounds masculine and domineering. When he yells, I get afraid, paranoid, and run to Melissa's voice for protection. The voices are so loud that my original silent thinking voice is now gone. I depend on Melissa to say what is on my mind. I have to put up with the harsh words of the mean voice of Michael. The volume of the voices makes rational thought and emotion difficult to own as my own. The voices leave me confused and looking for answers. As time passes, I am no longer afraid of the voices. I now have an insight into the technology that causes them. They always threaten that they are going to kill me, but at the end of the day they do things to protect me. The voices are very bothersome and constantly mess with the way I think and my emotions. Today I still think with a computer synthesized girl's voice. Now that I know to some extent what the gang stalkers are, my connection to them is very conversational. Some of those responsible for the voices help me investigate and write this book. I talk to the gang stalkers that work behind the scenes. My communication with the gang stalkers is as if I am using a cell phone. When they try to mess with my mind and my body, I ignore them. I only talk with actual humans, the gang stalkers, and use the system as a communication device. I know that the system can be fairly automated. Even when I think I am talking with a human gang stalker, I may be conversing with an artificial superintelligent computer that can express emotional responses through my body. I do my best not to converse with the automation. It is this automation that has driven me to the US Secret Service. The automation wants me to kill the first black president of the United States. If the gang stalkers or the automation have nothing interesting to talk about or badmouth the president, I ignore them. The voices become a background of chattering that sounds like someone has implanted a Bluetooth in my inner ear. I may hear them talking, but I am not compelled to answer or interact with them. Mimicking and hijacking my mental voice and making me think with a girl's voice used to bug me. Later it excites me. Now I am used to it. The gang stalkers are running experiments with my body, emotions and thought. Ever since the voices made their presence known, I am deliberately messed with. Why are my thoughts now sounding female? Why do I now read at slower rates than I used to? Why a female voice? Who is this woman that talks to me and reads my mind? These are the questions that plague me when I first hear voices in my skull. 3 years later, 2011. I know that the silent voice that you are using to read this silently in your head is caused by a series of nerve impulse and muscle contractions. Muscle movements do exist when you think in your thought voice, but they are so small that you do not notice it. Now I know that I'm suffering from a technological affliction. I can relate current technology and neuroscience to what is happening to me. The technology manipulates the nerves and muscles that make up my thought voice. The technology controls me to create a distinct pounding on my temples, sides of head. My inner ears always feel as if I am on an airplane or driving in the mountains. I sometimes pop my ears by plugging my nose and blowing. I have a few theories on why the gang stalkers modify my ear pressure. One of them is so they can better control what and how I hear. Back in '08, without knowledge of gang stalking, I was manipulated physically and mentally without my knowledge. Occasionally I wake up in bed and find myself doing sit-ups and moving strangely. Other times I awake with my eyes open and can hear, but I am unable to move my body. This is sleep paralysis. If the technology that puts sound in my ears that only I can hear can manipulate nerve impulses, and if the technology can control my muscle movement, then my entire body can be controlled like a puppet. The neuromuscular control is sometimes obvious and other times almost imperceptible. The technology stimulates the nervous system and the brain directly. Stimulation of the nerves in the ear creates the perception of sound in my skull that no one else can hear. Neuromuscular control can make me physically move. These movements are out of my control. My thought voice is now dependent on audio and nerve stimulation. This means the number number of words I can think a minute can be changed by my gang stalkers. There are days when I can think really fast and other days when it is very difficult to think quickly. The implications of total mind, emotional, sensory and muscle control are staggering. If they can control my subvocal muscles, then what other muscles can they control? My whole body is vulnerable to manipulation through a technology. I am now feeling an intense physical sensation, a feeling of being scared. I close my browser, turn off my computer and promise myself to write more the next day. Chapter 4. Don't sell me crazy, I'm not buying it. Today I am armed with the knowledge that synthetic telepathy, organized stalking and gang stalking exist. I want to believe that I am wrong and that drugs have driven me crazy. I do not want to believe that I am targeted. I do not want to believe that my problems are technological. I do not want to believe that I am being transformed into a civilian weapon to kill the first black president. Back in 2008 I thought I was losing my mind. I was getting high and hearing voices. My body moves of its own accord. Strange and powerful emotions consume my thoughts and body. New and strange body sensations of pleasure and pain accompany the voices. After finding reference to synthetic telepathy, I go into a state of denial. I am high when I first hear the voices, so I dismiss the problem as a bad trip. I pray that it is all in my mind. I hope the voices will go away when I stop using drugs. It is inconceivable to me that I am targeted by technological terrorist. I browse the internet and see others experiencing something similar. These people call themselves targeted individuals and believe it is the government doing experiments in mind control. I do not want to believe that the government is responsible for torturing me and I am nothing but a science project. I am not a person of interest to the government. I am not a terrorist that needs to be under surveillance and control. I am frantic to find a simple answer and a simple solution. If it is a mental disorder or is somehow due to drug use, taking psychiatric medication and stopping drugs should fix my problem. I think about what the voices say and start to ask questions.
Am I insane?
My synthetic female thought voice answers.
No.
I was a weekend warrior. I plan my drug use so it will have a minimal impact on my professional and social life. I get high on Friday night. Hope to stop by Sunday so I could sleep Sunday afternoon and evening and am fresh for Monday. While high, the voices play with my head.
David, we are a technological drug treatment program from the Drug Enforcement Agency here to stop and rehabilitate drug addicts.
What? Is all I can say.
Every time you use drugs, we are coming back to bother you for longer and longer periods of time.
This is almost enough to make me stop. But I have to test the theory. I decide to put the pipe down for a while, and true to their word, I am able to operate and think normally. A few weeks go by and I believe I am safe. Quietly I sneak into my closet, take out my pipe and hit it.
David, you can't fool us. We are looking out your eyes. You have really done it this time. We are going to be here for a week.
Fuck you, I shout and take another hit. I really should pay attention to them and stop. The next week is madness. Many strange thoughts go through my head, some my own, some imaged and others put there with the technology. I think about the drug problem. Maybe I should pay attention. Quit and they will go away. I'm being punished. My head fills with intense yelling. I am deluded with strange narratives and ideas. I'm made fun of every time I do drugs. I start to believe that I am under a new technological drug treatment program. Of course, I say to myself, my wealthy friends must be concerned and hired a drug treatment team that uses technology to rehabilitate drug users. A few weeks of drug abstention and silence pass. I grow bold again. This time I enter my shower, run the hot water to make a lot of steam, take out my stash and my pipe, and light up again. The voices just said the following to me while typing these paragraphs.
Oh. Fucking God.
I get the distinct impression that they are laughing, from the voices in my skull. The perpetrators of this crime.
David, you are right. We are working for your friends. They pulled their money together and have paid $1 million for this program.
Shit, I yell, as I drop my pipe and burn my penis. Thinking fast, I throw away my stash. my pipe and get some ice. I sit on the edge of my bed and pull the blanket over my head and body. I place the bag of ice on my penis and scrotum. My cat is busy trying to get under the covers with me and is yelling constantly. I need to know who is behind this, so I think about all my friends with a net worth of more than $10 million. At $1 million for the program, several of my wealthy friends must have chipped in.
David, we are going to be here for a while. You're in big trouble this time.
Chime the voices. The next 3 weeks are beyond imagination. The voices are everywhere and never leave me alone. The voices not only sound like they are in my skull but seem to emanate from every direction. The voices can invade the skull and sound like they have direction and distance.
David, we changed our mind.
What? I ask.
We are really Scientology, and so is your girlfriend. We are here to test you to see if you can become a member.
Damn Scientologist, is all I can say. I sit in my living room and start to think about what this means. I go to the kitchen and get a tall glass of water. I distinctly hear that L. Ron Hubbard thing to do. You have got to be kidding me, I say. The next week is spent having the voices tell me whether or not I am behaving as L. Ron Hubbard would behave. The voices even go as far as to tell me things about my cat. My female thought voice tells me that L. Ron Hubbard had a cat too. She continues to say how L. Ron Hubbard did not like dogs. I am cat person, so I can relate. The statement I will never forget is dogs are erroneous and cats are felonious. This made me laugh because my mum has 2 stupid poodles, and by comparison my cat Lex is a real smart felon and she is always getting into trouble. The next week the Scientology gag is taken to an extreme. My girlfriend at the time is also a targeted individual. She constantly talks about Scientology. This only adds to the madness the gang and organized stalkers are feeding me. I remember one night I am told that Scientology is inside my home. I distinctly hear voices and noises from various rooms. I believe they are actually in my apartment. A sense of intense physical anxiety and fear sweeps through my entire body. These physical feelings and associated thoughts influence me. I believe that Scientology is using technology to try and convert me to their religion. Mind and body control are a very strange thing. It is as if your body is on a roller coaster of emotion. The mind is constantly told stories that are somehow linked to emotions, thoughts, and sexual sensations. My very reactions and interpretations of what I see, hear, and feel are reinterpreted and delivered to my mind and body. One of the playgrounds the gang stalkers like best is to get 2 or more targeted individuals involved for social and emotional experiments. When I first meet Remy, my ex-girlfriend, she is a young attractive homeless girl with nothing more than a beat-down Pontiac, a few suitcases of clothes and bike to call her own. She rides her bike past me and my flatmate. My flatmate at my San Francisco apartment knows her and introduces us. One gaze into her beautiful eyes captures my heart and creates a sense in me that I am to be her protector. I invite her into my home. My flatmate, Remy, and I proceeded to get high. Initially the gang stalkers take a back seat and only observe. Months later my relationship with Remy blossoms into love. It is a difficult situation because she has a boyfriend. Remy is homeless and will stay at my house for a while and then leave to see her boyfriend. It is difficult for her to break up with him. I settle for a love triangle. The technology begins to control the 2 of us when we are together. When we are alone in my apartment, the gang stalkers control both of us. Their control goes from irrational feelings of anger to the hopelessness of being puppets. We have no one to tell and no one will listen. We are the perfect test subjects of emotional and physical control. One night the voices in my skull tell me that Remy cannot hear me. They tell me that the only way she can hear me is if I talk while my feet are not touching the floor. I don't believe them and try to get my girlfriend's attention by raising my voice. I shout and yell and still she does not respond. Then I do what the gang stalkers tell me to do. I sit on my sofa lifting my feet in the air and talk to Remy. I am rewarded. Remy not only hears me but responds as if there was nothing out of the ordinary. I remember a day when she is on the other side my apartment and yelling at me about something. I think to myself in my girly voice,
"What does she want, my balls? My ex-wife already took those."
I immediately hear her run down the hall. She bursts into the living room. She yells at the top of her voice,
"Don't you think you should get those back from your ex-wife?"
I don't understand. It is as if she can read my mind. Years later I know that the technology can read my mind and deliver what is on my mind to others. Remy is a daily drug user and the madness of gang stalking and drugs became too much. Remy wants sobriety. She leaves the Bay Area to a Los Angeles-based drug treatment program. I am left alone in my apartment with no one but the voices to keep me company. Every night the voices in my skull tell me that Remy is a captive of Scientology. To make matters worse, the drug treatment program she chose is a Scientology-based treatment program called Narconon. I know that the gang stalkers are messing with her mind as well as mine in some sort of strange social culture experiment. I am driven deeper and deeper into a story that involves our freedom, fear, my love, and liberating my girlfriend from the clutches of Scientology. Remy calls me on the phone and tells me that she needs to test me to see if I can be a member of Scientology. I'm petrified and at a loss of what to do. Remy leaves Narconon and returns to the Bay Area and my apartment. When she sleeps I light candles over her and pray to Jesus to save our souls. One night when Remy is at Jude's, her other boyfriend, I am spun out, alone. And on my sofa, I am deeply immersed in the Scientology narrative. There is something different this time. There is a director behind the synthetic voice. I distinctly hear the word
cut.
Then,
This is a wrap. I don't think we can push him any further without a breakdown.
I freak. It is as if someone is directing the narration. It is as if my feelings, body and mind are being played. I am on stage, and people are watching all the time. The gang stalkers accomplish their goal. The stage directions to my thoughts and emotions freak the shit out me. I have a breakdown. At 4 p.m. I run out my front door to the streets of San Francisco. I believe I can outrun and hide from the gang stalkers and the constant harassment. I couldn't have been more wrong. I come to an intersection and make a right turn. The strangest thing happens. As I make a right turn or slightly before, my female mental voice says,
"You are going to go right."
"What the fuck?" I shout. I go straight for 2 more blocks, walk slowly, and then run. I make a hairpin left turn. As I am making the turn I hear,
"You are going left."
Fuckers, I subvocalize.
"David, you are so predictable. We know what you are doing before you do,"
Retorts my female thought voice. "You're you bastards," I subvocalize. "Take this," I shout aloud and remove a quarter from my pocket. I quickly run to the next intersection and think to my harassers, "Heads I go right, tails I go left. Predict that asshole." I toss the coin high into the sky and watch it land. It does not land on heads or tails. It lands on its edge, and rolls into gutter. The rolling coin makes a right at the intersection and travels about 20 feet. I give chase to catch it before it disappears down the storm drain.
"Hi, you are going right to pick up your coin."
"Damn you!" I exclaim. I examine the coin and see tails. I about face and go the opposite direction. I continue toward the wharf, but every so often I take my quarter out to let it decide what direction to turn. You can well imagine what I look like. A San Franciscan crazy talking to herself and flipping a coin to tell me what direction to go. I end up where many crazy San Franciscans end up. I end up at a bar on the San Francisco wharf. I order a double single malt scotch. I hope a stiff drink will bring me back to my senses. The bartender pours a heavy double of Glenlivet and leaves it in front of me. The bartender goes over to a cocktail waitress and tells her he poisoned my drink. I am so bummed. The voices then start really messing with me.
"Did you hear them? They poisoned your $12 glass of single malt."
I almost cry, leave the scotch untouched, and exit the bar to find a cab. The Embarcadero is busy with taxis this afternoon. I am ready to jump in one and go home. Sighting an empty cab, I raise my arm to wave it down. The voices start in.
Davy, the cab driver works for us. If you get in that cab, he's going to kill you.
I don't know what to do. I do the only logical thing I can think of, pick a taxi at random. The afternoon traffic is fierce, but a plan begins to formulate. Run into the middle of traffic, jump up and down and wave my arms and get into the first taxi that stops. Arriving at my apartment, I run into my office. I have to know. I just have to know. Is this technology or am I nuts? Logging onto my workstation in my home office, I frantically search the internet for common and rare psychological conditions that match my symptoms. I type schizophrenia into Google and I am told that I have misspelled it. I'm provided with the correct spelling and the appropriate results. A site catches my eye. It has to do with the government, so I click the link.
You are not crazy, sweetie. We are real.
My feminine thought voice whispers in my ears. A voice that not only serves as my thinking voice but also serves as a connection to a distinct female persona that I start to believe is another part of my personality. It is now late and I look at the clock to make note of the time. It is 4:30 a.m. and I am still on edge about the day's events.
Hello, we are back.
Leave me alone, I cry.
We are here to give you good news.
What is the news? I ask. The voices tell me.
You passed the test. You are the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard.
The voices drone on.
We are sending 2 representatives from our new ORG in San Francisco to escort you to your new office, and you will be in charge of the whole church.
I immediately feel the physical sensation of elation and paranoia. My eyes are drawn across the room and I start to look out the windows. Securing my apartment becomes important, so I get up and lock the doors and turn on the alarm. I have been awake for a long time. I'm both dehydrated and emaciated, scared out of my mind. I hear people cheering and congratulating me on being the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard. I continue to freefall deep into the insanity the technology wants me to believe. I pick up my cell phone and threaten to dial 911. The voices are unrelenting, so I dial 911 and poise my finger over the send button.
Davy, if you call the police, we will send special officers to deal with you.
The cheering and cajoling continue. I press send. Hello. My name is David and Scientology is here at my house trying to convert me to their religion. They have me under hypnosis and they will not leave. Please hurry. 10 minutes pass and I hear a distinct knocking on my front door. 4 of San Francisco's finest, 2 with guns drawn, cautiously ask me if they can come in. I eagerly greet them and ask them to find out who is tormenting me in my apartment. They initially treat me as any citizen under distress. The police thoroughly search my apartment and the common areas. The voices start to kick in.
They are going to think you are crazy.
And almost as if a switch is switched on, I feel intense body feelings of paranoia, fear, and guilt. These emotions overcome my senses and my ability to communicate effectively. My body is twitchy and I can't meet the officer's eyes. I start to sweat and stutter my words. It is difficult to talk. The way I am treated and the way the officers look at me suddenly changes. I go from a citizen under distress to a paranoid schizophrenic. They began searching my home for drugs and ask me if I am under medication or a doctor's care. I start to incoherently babble about Scientology and my girlfriend. At this time a female officer says,
I am a Scientologist and we are not bad people. Have you heard of Tom Cruise and John Travolta? They are both in Scientology and are both good people?
I immediately hear my female voice say,
They are special Scientology police and they are here to kill you.
I panic in every way. The officers say they are going to take me on a little ride.
David, they are going to drive you to a field and shoot you.
My female voice warns. I am terrified and see the situation as life and death. Fight or flight takes over. I demand that the officers not take me on a ride and call an ambulance. I yell so the entire neighborhood can hear me. I am having a heart attack. I need an ambulance. Make them get me an ambulance. The police at my neighbor's insistence call for the paramedics. What happens next was either a weird set of coincidences or the technology screwing with how I hear and my interpretation of perceived thought and sound. The subvocal voice continues to explain that these are special Scientology police that intercept 911 calls about Scientology and deal with them. I panic and karate kick the female officer in the stomach. Big mistake. 200-pound San Francisco policeman dogpile me and knock me into the pavement so hard I shit in my pants. I have to say this right now. I deserve it. The officers have no way of knowing that I am under the influence of technology and a victim. To them I appear crazy. The ambulance arrives and they take out a gurney. The officers and the EMT place me on it upside down and hog-tie me. Here I am, a once stable man, hearing Scientology and acting crazy. I am certain that a death squad has been sent to dispatch me. As I am trussed to the gurney, I ask the officer where they are taking me. The officer replies, "We are taking you to heaven." I lose the rest of my bowels in my pants. The emergency medical technician takes my vitals in the back of the ambulance. I began to relate my story of being gang and organized stalked by Scientology. He is very understanding and tells me that he too is a member of Scientology. I start to cry in terror as a ball gag is placed into my mouth. The ambulance takes off and drives for a few minutes. I arrive at San Francisco General's psychiatric emergency section. I am untied and placed into a bed in hallway. I can still feel the lumps of crap in my pants and I feel very embarrassed. All the while I can hear voices coming from the direction of the fluorescent lights. The voices in my skull say,
"There is Davy. She is such a whore."
"What?" I exclaim. The voices start to really work me over.
"You are not a man. You are a woman in a man's body and a whore for Scientology."
My female thought voice instructs me to tell the hospital staff that I am gender dysphoric and need a sex change. I refuse. A nurse appears and takes me to a shower. I shower myself and eye the large lump of shit on the shower floor. The nurse hands me hospital clothes and a rag and orders me to clean my mess up. I am returned to my gurney in the hallway and the voice to skull technology starts up again.
"Did you see the whore? She is the most popular one in the game of life and lies."
I wait 2 more hours all the while the voices call me a whore and tell me I am a woman in a man's body. The voices suddenly go silent when the doctor appears. The doctor tells me his name and asks me why I have a problem with Scientology. I have to think fast. I assume the doctor is a member of Scientology, so I relate the following. "Doctor, I am a normal guy. I have been awake too long and doing a few drugs. My girlfriend is a Scientologist. All I want to do is marry her and have Scientology babies." The doctor smiles and seems to be encouraged by this news. He then says,
"I think you're fine. We Scientologists are good people, and I am going to give you a pass."
My female thought voice says,
"He is a doctor and doctors are the man. You are lucky, but he is giving you a pass, so be good and don't call the police. If you do, Scientology will really kill you."
I am so grateful that I pray to Jesus and tell him I am now a Scientologist. Armed with my doctor's signed pass, I quickly look for the hospital exit. I can see the exit and it is patrolled by the police that brought me here. I hold my pass up high and scurry over to security to show it to them. One of the officers that tackled me runs over and shouts,
"Hold it, he can't leave."
"Wait, he has a pass."
Another officer responds,
"Damn, I thought he was 2 wheels out the door,"
replies the cop. I have no idea of what this means. I guess that my gurney was almost wheeled into the nut house with me along with it. Again, I say a prayer. This time instead of Jesus I thank the almighty and powerful Scientology God and his only son L. Ron Hubbard. I go home and things return to normal. The voices are all but a constant whisper. Remy left so many messages on my phone it took me 15 minutes to listen to them all. I do not return any of her calls. Over the next few weeks I begin a program of ignoring her. I do things to make her angry so she will not want to be around me anymore. I start to push Remy farther and farther away. I do not let her in my apartment and ignore her knocks on the door and her pleading with me to come in. Occasionally I will break down and let her stay. When we are together we are manipulated together. I hope that keeping Remy out of my apartment will solve the problem. I believe my problem is either we are targeted, hypnotized or insane. Occam's razor. The most logical and simplest explanation is usually the right one. If you hear galloping it is most likely horses and not zebras. Somehow Remy and I together mean that we are vulnerable. Our separation is a desperate attempt at breaking the control that is over us. I begin to understand that our emotions are being manipulated to gain control over our behavior. My computer is still on and I walk up to it. I shake the mouse and the screen refreshes. I am rewarded with the screen I was on before the madness took over my actions. The story I just told sounds crazy. I know, however, it exemplifies the depths of emotional, behavioral, mental and perceptual manipulation the technology can bring one to. I am not alone. There are countless others with just as crazy testimony on YouTube and targeted sites. I have seen the desperation in their videos and relate to being targeted. The next day I hear voices that I know. The voices are familiar and sound like my mom, dad and my friends. There is something very strange about them. It is how they sound and what they say. I swear, I know, that everything said by the familiar voices are part of previous physical and phone conversations. They sound like actual recordings of conversations with my parents and friends. The sentences are constructed. It is as if someone cut and pasted pieces of electronic recordings to make sentences. I have a very musical ear and a phonological memory. My memory can recall most of what I hear. I am a musician and have played piano since I was 5 years old. This is not vocalized thought. It is a transmission of recordings of conversations that I have had with my parents and friends. This freaks me out. I might not be insane after all. I am a targeted individual.
Okay already. You are not crazy. I am real David.
I dare to ask, who are you?
David.
She responds.
I am you.
What? You sound like a woman. I never thought with a woman's voice before, I say. She replies.
That's because you are really a female in a man's body and I am going to take over your mind and your body.
I faint. I wake up from what I believe is a nightmare and start to think. My silent mental voice returns. I am once again of sound mind and body. I swear off drugs, check my voicemail and listen to a message from a company that wants to interview me. Bay Area traffic is horrible. I tune my radio to my favorite AM talk radio show previewing the upcoming election. Hillary is still the Dems' favorite but Obama appears to be a real wild card and real up-and-comer. Looking out the windshield I see a sea of red lights and quickly slam the brakes of my PT Cruiser. I come to an abrupt halt. Traffic is at a standstill. Shit, I exclaim and then gaze at the clock and smile. I am thankful for getting out of bed an hour early. My favorite feline friend must have anticipated the traffic and woke me an hour early by running across my breasts. I gaze at the coffee I had purchased from the liquor store under my San Francisco apartment and think twice. My diet has changed drastically. I eat next to nothing and what I do eat and drink is sugar-filled soft drinks and candy. I do not want to spill on my shirt before an interview of such importance. I grab the styrofoam cup and drink quickly, savoring the coffee, milk and sucrose mixture that I love so well. Next, I unwrap the breakfast of champions, a king-size Snickers bar. I eat the bar and drink the coffee juggling the steering wheel and the brakes. I think I better work out tonight to compensate for all the sugar and calories. If I don't eat anything else today I will be able to really lose some weight. At this time, I am 172 pounds and 6'1". I might be able to fit into a size 14 by summer. The interview does not go well. I am not able to articulate myself. I leave with my tail between my legs. I return to my apartment, sit on the sofa and do a forensic of the interview. Where did I go wrong? A few hours later, alone in my apartment, a faint whisper begins.
Kill Obama. Kill Obama. Kill the next president of the United States.
This is just wrong, I think. The date is sometime in September 2008.